If you really want to know how a man feels about a woman, don't listen to what he says. Watch what he does when no one's keeping score. Because when a man truly loves a woman, his entire behavior shifts in quiet but undeniable ways. He doesn't just say he loves her, he shows it in ways only meant for her. When a man truly loves a woman, his priorities begin to shift in ways that even surprise him. It's not about sacrificing his life or abandoning his identity. It's about naturally choosing to include her in the things that matter most to him. You'll notice it in the smallest ways. The way he rearranges his schedule to make sure they have time together. The way he starts thinking ahead, considering how his choices might affect her even when she's not around. She's not someone he squeezes into his life between everything else. She becomes part of the core. Not in a possessive or codependent way, but because he values the connection so deeply, it feels wrong to move through life without her in the picture. When he's with his friends and someone suggests doing something impulsive or reckless, he pauses, not because he's being controlled, but because love has given him a new perspective. His decisions aren't just about fun or freedom anymore. They're about something greater than himself. He starts showing up more intentionally. If he used to be someone who was flaky or always running late, suddenly he's the one who makes the plans and follows through. Love brings out this drive in him to be better, more reliable, more present, and you can feel the difference. He's not doing these things to impress her or win points. He does them because he genuinely cares about how she feels and what she needs. The woman he loves becomes someone whose well-being is entwined with his own sense of purpose. If she's had a bad day, he doesn't see it as her problem. He feels it too, and he tries to make it better, even in small ways. Maybe it's bringing her her favorite drink, texting her just to say he's thinking of her, or quietly taking care of something she forgot. These aren't big romantic moments. These are the quiet shifts that show just how deeply she matters to him. This priority isn't always loud or obvious, but it shows up when it counts. Like when he's faced with a tough choice between doing what's easy and doing what honors their connection. It shows up when he chooses to spend time with her over being somewhere else that used to excite him. It shows up when he thinks about his future plans, not just where he wants to go, but who he wants by his side when he gets there. It's subtle, it's powerful, and most of all, it's real. Because when a man truly loves a woman, she's not just a part of his day. She becomes part of the reason he looks forward to tomorrow. When a man genuinely loves a woman, the way he listens to her changes entirely. It's no longer about just nodding along or waiting for his turn to speak. It becomes about understanding her world, her thoughts, and her emotions. He leans in, not physically alone, but mentally and emotionally. His attention sharpens. He remembers things that matter to her, even the ones she doesn't expect him to remember. Maybe it's the story about her rough childhood moment, or the way she described a dream she had when she was young. These aren't just random facts to him. They become markers of who she is, what shaped her, and what she cares about. A man in love takes those things in and stores them carefully, because he knows they're pieces of her heart. Listening becomes a way he connects, a way he shows that her voice carries weight. He doesn't interrupt her to fix everything. He doesn't dismiss her concerns as overreactions. Instead, he listens with the goal of truly understanding what she's experiencing. He starts to pick up on her moods, her silences, the little shifts in her tone that others might overlook. He knows when she says, "I'm fine," she might not actually be fine, and he cares enough to gently dig deeper. It's not about interrogating her or forcing her to speak. It's about creating a space where she feels safe enough to share without fear of judgment or minimization. When she speaks about her passions, he listens with curiosity, even if those passions aren't his own. If she's into something he never thought much about, maybe it's poetry, animals, or a cause she volunteers for, he takes the time to understand it. Not because he has to, but because anything that lights her up deserves his respect and attention. He wants to be a witness to her growth and her joy. He wants to be someone who not only hears her dreams but encourages them. Even in disagreements, a man in love listens differently. He doesn't try to win or prove her wrong. He tries to understand where the hurt is coming from and how they got there. It's no longer about ego. It's about connection. And when she's vulnerable, when she shares something that takes courage, he doesn't flinch or make it about himself. He holds that moment with care. He shows her through his listening that her truth matters, that her words are safe with him. Love doesn't just change the way a man talks, it transforms the way he listens. Because in his heart, she's not just someone to be around, she's someone to be understood. When a man is in love, something rare and powerful begins to unfold. He starts revealing the parts of himself he usually keeps hidden, not because he's weak, but because he finally feels safe enough to be real. The world often teaches men to be strong, composed, in control at all times. Vulnerability is treated like a threat, like a crack in the armor that must be sealed. But with the woman he truly loves, he begins to lower that shield, not all at once and not always intentionally, but it happens in the quiet moments when trust begins to outgrow fear. He may share stories he's never told anyone, not the polished versions, but the raw truths. The moments when he failed, when he doubted himself, when he felt like he wasn't enough. Those aren't easy things to expose, especially for a man who spent years trying to appear invincible. But love gives him a reason to let someone in, to stop carrying the weight alone. He may talk about his past, not just the facts but how it shaped him, the fears he picked up along the way, the insecurities he hides behind the jokes or the silence. He might admit that he doesn't have it all figured out, that he's still learning how to love the right way. And that admission, as terrifying as it might be, becomes a gift he offers to the woman he loves, because he's not just giving her access to his achievements or his strengths, he's giving her access to his truth. There's a quiet bravery in that, the kind of courage that doesn't scream but whispers, "He's the real me. I trust you enough to see it." This vulnerability isn't about being emotional all the time or turning the relationship into a therapy session. It's about being honest, emotionally present, and willing to connect beyond surface-level charm. It's in the way he opens up after a long day, not just about what happened, but how it made him feel. It's in the way he admits when he's scared, when he feels pressure, when he doesn't know the answer. And more importantly, it's in the way he lets her see him in those moments, without trying to protect his pride. He doesn't feel the need to always be the rock. Sometimes he lets her be the one who holds him up, and that balance deepens their connection. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's intimacy. It's what turns attraction into depth. And when a man lets his guard down and allows himself to be truly seen, it means he's not just looking for someone to impress, he's looking for someone to trust with his whole heart. Love pushes him to stop performing and start being, because with the right woman, being real feels better than being perfect. When a man is truly in love, he starts investing in a woman's happiness in ways that go far beyond surface-level gestures. He doesn't wait for a special occasion to show up for her. He's always scanning for little ways to make her life better, easier, lighter. It's not about expensive gifts or grand romantic displays, though those may happen too. It's about the small, consistent choices he makes every day that say, "I see you and I care." He notices the things that make her smile and quietly starts doing more of them, Maybe it's remembering how she takes her coffee, or sending her a message during the day just to let her know he's thinking of her. Maybe it's doing something she usually handles, not because she asked, but because he wants to lift the weight off her shoulders when he can. He becomes more observant. If she's overwhelmed, he picks up on it. If something's been bothering her, even if she hasn't said anything out loud, he senses the shift and checks in, not to fix it, but to be a calm presence in her world. He becomes the kind of person she can lean on, not because he's obligated to be, but because her peace of mind matters deeply to him. When he plans something, even something small like where they'll eat or what movie to watch, he considers what she would enjoy. Her preferences become part of his decision-making process, not because he's trying to impress her, but because her joy brings him joy too. Her laughter starts to mean something to him on a personal level. He pays attention to the parts of her life that most people might overlook: her schedule, her family dynamics, her passions. He stays involved not out of curiosity, but because these things matter to her, so they matter to him. He might encourage her when she doubts herself, pushing her gently to chase her goals and believe in her own voice. He'll support her in ways that sometimes go unnoticed by others, but are deeply felt by her. It could be him staying up late to help her with something important, or it could be him giving her space when she needs to recharge, even when he'd rather be close. He starts thinking beyond what he gets out of the relationship and focuses more on what he can give, not as a transaction, but as a reflection of his love. This investment in her happiness isn't performative. It's not something he turns on and off depending on the mood or moment. It becomes part of his rhythm, part of how he moves through the world when she's in it. Because when a man is in love, he doesn't just want to be there for the highlights. He wants to be someone who quietly contributes to her well-being every single day. That's what love looks like when it's expressed through consistent care. When a man is in love, he begins to protect the relationship in ways that might not be obvious to outsiders, but are incredibly powerful beneath the surface. It's not about being possessive or controlling. Real love doesn't operate that way. It's about being intentional, aware, and deeply respectful of the bond he's building with her. A man who's committed to the woman he loves treats the relationship as something sacred. It's not just another part of his life. It becomes a living thing he wants to nurture, defend, and grow with care. He understands that good relationships don't just survive on love alone. They require effort, attention, and sometimes sacrifice. So he becomes proactive. He starts thinking ahead. He becomes more conscious of how his words, his actions, and even his silences affect her and the connection they share. One of the clearest signs of this is how he handles outside influences. Whether it's temptations, distractions, or even toxic friends who don't respect boundaries, he starts putting up quiet walls of protection, not because she asked him to, but because the relationship matters to him. He doesn't entertain flirtation or situations that feel disrespectful to the bond he has. He's not looking for backup plans, attention, or validation from anyone else. His emotional energy stays home. He realizes that the fastest way to lose something valuable is to take it for granted, and so he actively chooses not to. He doesn't play games with her heart or test how far he can push before she pulls away. Instead, he chooses the path that protects the trust they've built, even when no one is watching. When arguments happen, as they do in any relationship, he doesn't run or react out of ego. He works through it. He leans into the uncomfortable conversations. He cares more about understanding than winning. He might take a breather, but he always comes back with the intention to resolve, not to punish. He starts replacing emotional habits that no longer serve the relationship with healthier ones, because being right isn't as important to him as being connected. He doesn't let pride destroy communication. That's protection, not of himself, but of the bond. He starts thinking like a partner. Instead of just making decisions based on what works for him, he begins to consider how things affect both of them. She becomes part of the equation, not in a way that limits him, but in a way that deepens his awareness. There's a maturity in this kind of love. A man who protects the relationship is someone who no longer sees commitment as confinement. He sees it as a freedom to build something real with someone who matters. So he becomes more selective with where he gives his energy. He lets go of behaviors that used to feel harmless but now carry weight. He chooses conversations over assumptions, reassurance over silence, presence over performance. When he's with her, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. He creates a safe emotional space where she can be herself fully without fear of judgment, abandonment, or confusion. That kind of space doesn't happen by accident. It happens because he's guarding what they have, not out of fear of losing her, but out of deep respect for what they've created together. It's easy to love someone when everything is going well, but protecting the relationship means showing up when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, when your ego wants to fight but your heart wants to stay. A man in love sees those moments as opportunities to protect what they've built, and he rises to them, not because he has to, but because he genuinely wants to. When a man is truly in love, his vision of the future starts to shift in subtle but meaningful ways. He no longer imagines life as a solo journey or even just a personal pursuit of goals. Suddenly, it matters who's standing beside him. He begins to naturally include the woman he loves in the plans he once thought about only in terms of himself. These aren't just surface-level promises or vague dreams about someday. They become concrete thoughts and conversations about what life might look like with her in it, where they'll live, what kind of life they want to build, the values they want to share. The woman he loves isn't a chapter in his story anymore. She becomes woven into the whole narrative. You can see it in the way he starts talking. Instead of, "I'll probably move to a new city next year," it becomes, "We should look into where we'd want to live." Instead of, "I want to start a business," it becomes, "I'd love for us to build something together." She becomes part of the long game, not just a date, not just a phase, but a partner in his mind. And this isn't about pressure or rushing things. It's not even always said out loud. It's a natural extension of his love and trust. Because when a man lets himself fully love someone, he also lets himself build dreams with her. Even if he's still figuring things out, even if he's not fully ready, he starts mentally placing her beside him in every major scene of the future. That mental shift is powerful. It means he's no longer planning for just himself. His goals now include the question, how will this affect her? And how can we grow through this together? He wants her to feel secure, not just in the present moment, but in what's coming next. He wants her to know she's not a temporary stop on his way somewhere else. She's the direction he wants to head in. That's why he starts creating space in his life for her, even before there's any formal commitment. Maybe it's a drawer in his home. Maybe it's an invitation to meet the people who matter most to him. Maybe it's including her in big decisions. These small acts are signs that in his heart, he's already building a life that includes her. Long-term thinking also changes how he handles the present. He's more patient during conflicts. He's more forgiving, more curious about growth, because in his mind, this isn't something he wants to walk away from when it gets hard. This is something he wants to invest in, work through, and protect. He starts choosing stability over impulse, consistency over excitement, honesty over avoidance, because all of that is what creates a solid foundation for the future he envisions. He also becomes more open about his own uncertainties. If he's scared about the future or unsure about certain steps, he shares that with her, not to burden her, but to involve her, because he values her input. He respects her point of view. Her voice matters when he's dreaming out loud. He sees her not just as someone to support him, but as someone to build with. That mindset is rare. It's not about control or dependency, it's about partnership, true partnership. A man in love doesn't just look at a woman and think, I want you now. He looks at her and thinks, I want you there, wherever there ends up being. And even if the plan changes, the desire to walk the road together doesn't. When a man truly loves a woman, it shows not just in what he says, but in how he lives. He reshapes his priorities, listens with presence, reveals his rawest truths, invests in her joy, protects what they're building, and sees her as part of his future. These aren't just random acts of affection. They're signs of a deep, intentional love that's rare and real. Love like this doesn't shout. It's steady. It's in the way he shows up day after day with his actions, his honesty, and his heart wide open. And when a man loves like that, you never have to question it. You feel it. In the way he sees you, chooses you, and builds a life that makes room for you, not just today, but always.